What's going on, you guys? Deeksy here with a little informal intro before this episode of Habsolutely Plays with my buddies Paul K. Lemire and John Filion. They're going to mention it themselves anyway, but I want to let you guys know that yes, the three of us are doing a live stream tomorrow for the NHL Draft. I've invited some special guests. I'm not going to name them right now, but I've invited some guests to make an appearance or two, and the three of us are going to be hosting live together in person for the draft. We're going to have a TV in front of us to watch and react to it. It's going to be a blast. So I didn't make the announcement until now, the day before the draft here, but enjoy this episode of Habsolutely with Paul and John, and we'll see you guys tomorrow live for the draft. I cannot wait. See you there.
Hello, all you out there in video land and everybody in radio land too. We're doing a double broadcast here. We broadcast on radio on 4680q.com, and we also broadcast through the studio on a video, which is rolling right now. Hello, everybody. My name is Paul K. Lemire. This is my co-host, John Filion.
Bonjour, mon ami.
Bonjour.
Est-ce que tu bien dormi ce soir?
Oh, I'm doing very well.
Excellent.
I'm doing
That's
very well. I had
hear.
a good night's sleep, and it's just about spring. But I got to watch my papers, John.
Your papers?
My papers right here.
You mean you got a paper route?
I got papers.
Paper late?
I got papers. My papers, because yesterday what I did is I put my papers on top of this little fob here, right, which I'm going to put up here. It blocked the Bluetooth signal and turned off my video recorder.
Sacre bleu.
Sacre bleu. Anyway, this is Habsolutely. Paul K. Lemire, John Filion. We are here to talk all Habs, all show. No Drew Deeks today, though. He couldn't make it in, unfortunately.
I think he's playing Glastonbury on Friday. He's a headliner. Drew Alika is playing Glastonbury on Friday.
Drew Aginla. That's what I call him.
Drew Aginla.
Yeah, well, we love Drew Deeks. He's YouTube superstar. And, we love him to death. So, always a good show. But he will be in. We're going to be doing a live broadcast, John, on Friday of the draft.
Absolutely.
And you're going to be able to watch it on the Drew Deeks channel.
That's phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
I mean, I'm excited. I just can't wait until
I am totally pumped.
They say, and now, picking fifth, they keep the Canadiens.
Let me ask you a question while you're talking about that.
The Montreal Canadiens.
Who are they going to ask to come out and make the pick? Now, this is something nobody's talked about. Last year, they asked
Carey?
CP. Not Caden Primo. The other guy that's CP. Yeah, they asked
Corey Perry.
Corey Perry. There you go.
Here's the other
Four-time
CP.
loser. Four-time loser, by the way. And
Poor Corey Perry.
Well, yeah, but he gets action other ways. It doesn't matter about the cup.
Ooh.
But who do you think's going to come out and make the announcement? I was thinking about that today.
I think I'd have my ex-captain who is headed to the Hockey Hall of Fame.
Shea Weber.
Absolutely.
That would be awesome.
That's what I would do.
That would be awesome.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, he just got inducted. We'll talk about that later.
Exactly. What better way to bring it on for Shea Weber?
I think that would be an excellent idea, and I couldn't.
I think you and I should be running the Habs, to be honest with you.
Yeah, really, we know what's going on.
We know what to do.
At least marketing.
Absolutely.
Right. So, I think that would be an awesome idea, John. Great pick. I was thinking about that myself. Who would I get? I saw Shea Weber being inducted today. And then I'm thinking, what greats are still around that we could get to wander up there and do it? There's just so many from Montreal, right? Bob Gainey's still around. There's a lot of guys still around.
There's a ton.
And players. But
it's a little early for Patrick, but I think Shea Weber would be excellent.
I think that would be awesome if he walks up there. Let's see if your prediction comes true. I can't think of anybody better, especially since he just got inducted.
Exactly. It's a perfect fit.
It's a perfect fit for the perfect time. He's the perfect guy for the perfect time. I mean, you can't plan this better.
No, it couldn't be better than that.
So let's hope he does that. I'd love to see that, to be honest with you. I'd really like to see that. And I don't know why these sound levels are so low. Everything was working fine yesterday. I don't get it.
That's a likely story.
Here we go. Okay, somebody monkeyed with that. That's why. Okay, there's always something. Somebody touches something. And
it's the universal button.
Yeah, it's the universal sound button. There you go. I knew something wasn't right. But, you got to look around the board and figure it all out because it works good, and if nobody touches anything, it continues to work good.
Florida were definitely working the boards on Monday night.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Florida, we're going to go over to that game. Then we'll do some Canadiens draft trivia, right? But I like to talk about that game. Good segue there, Johnny boy. Good segue. I watched that game and I'm just going, let's see what's going to happen here tonight. And when Bobrovsky got into a groove, I said, this game's over. Even though they got the first goal, this game's over. It's all over.
Florida got the first goal. Edmonton tied it up immediately.
Yeah, they tied it up. But I don't know. They were just, like you say, they were all over them. This was the games they played in the first three.
Florida were very comfortable being at home. Number one.
Yeah, as I suspected.
I really think, Florida played, they were in the finals last year. My understanding, and I if anybody out there in, radio land or podcast land, TV land can tell us, I believe I heard that Florida had 10 additional players this year that didn't play with the team last year.
I believe that.
That's quite a few in my mind when you think about it. We're thinking a lot about, this team was in the finals last year, and they're in the finals again this year. Yes. But they're really not the same team.
No, they picked up a couple of veterans to fill in. Pozo, I think, was one of them they picked up. And another, what was the other guy they picked up?
They picked up a guy, I think, late in the season, right?
Yeah, and of course they picked up
and different players building into 23, 24.
Right.
But what I find that really interesting because as we always are looking for advantages for the Keep It Canadian to learn from existing good habits that are out there, or even sometimes bad habits, as the team up the street provides. Where this could be, something that we need to realize that the team that we create in 25, 26, 27 will be a far greater team 3 years later. So as we're onboarding players, as we're picking up prospects, draft picks, et cetera, as we'll probably be bringing in maybe a couple of veterans to fill out the roster until we get to that fifth year of the rebuild. Some of these players may only be temporary. There's a lot of talk about Kent Hughes bringing in a couple of unrestricted free agents onto the team immediately for only a couple of years. And that's kind of like bridging the gap. So that, when you think about from a strategy standpoint, makes perfect sense for Kent Hughes to do. Because the sooner he can bring the team into the playoffs and get a level of playoff experience, the better it will be for the team to be prepared for a Stanley Cup final.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing when you talk about, this team making the playoffs next year. I think next year, this coming up season, it's very important that the Habs are ready to take a run. I'm not saying they're going to make it. I'm not saying they're going to get more than the first round in. But there's a couple of people who have been to the finals that were on this team when we went to the finals 3 years ago or whatever it was. And they've got some experience, and now we have to get the experience to the other kids that haven't been there. And even one round, just gives them an idea of what to expect and how to get there.
It's developing part of the culture of being winners, of having a winning habit, of expecting that, nothing below winning, nothing below going into the playoffs is acceptable.
Yeah, and we saw that from Florida, so you bring up a really good point. We saw that from Florida. Last year they made the finals. They didn't win. But this year they knew how to win. They knew how to get there. And even though they were down 3-0, they were up 3-0, they lost 3 in a row, going home, And Bobrovsky by no means had great games. He was the Conn Smythe winner. Then he wasn't the Conn Smythe winner.
Absolutely.
And-
I mean, the stats show it.
Yeah, the stats show it. And so they lose 3. So there wasn't one person, maybe except for me, who thought Florida was going to win. They thought all the momentum was with Edmonton. McDavid, he's taken over, and this is going to be it. Guess what? In Game 6, he never got a shot.
Well, Connor
In Game 7, he never got a goal.
Everybody loves Cinderella stories.
They do.
And that was one of the biggest Cinderella stories in the making.
Well, it was, but until the pumpkin coach didn't show up.
You know?
But at the end of the day, Florida were the team that had been there. They knew how to buckle down. Bobrovsky stepped up his game, played a phenomenal game. And yeah, I mean, it could have went either way. There was close calls all over the place. But the bottom line is Florida won the game 2-1.
Exactly. And Florida, I mean, went out and they hit Edmonton constantly battered them. They weren't afraid to ice the puck. They did everything they had to do to contain the Edmonton onslaught.
And
I think McDavid saw a lot of ice time. I'm sure he did.
Oh, sure he did.
He looked like they were double shifting him often. At one point, I think near the end of the first period or second period, there became an opportunity on an icing to bring McDavid out for a double. Like, he'd only been offered, say, one shift and bring him back on. Like, you got a minute and 10 seconds left in that period. Bring him out. But what Florida did was kept Edmonton on the D. So the entire time that you bring out Connor McDavid for that last minute,
Connor McDavid,
for that last minute of the period, he isn't playing offense. He's playing defense.
Right. and I don't think he got off the ice in the last 5 minutes of the game. I mean, they pulled out all the stops to win this game. And they just couldn't get it by Bobrovsky. He made a couple of great saves at the end there, and the team was just like they were like the National Guard, man. They stood in front of that. They weren't letting anybody get through, and the seconds counted down. It was 2-1 to Florida. They hoist the Stanley Cup. And to tell you the truth, the guy I was happiest for the most, because I'm a Habs fan. I really don't care who wins of Edmonton and Florida. I know Canadians. This was their dream to have it come back to Canada, but Canadian people, let me say something to you. The next team that wins the Stanley Cup from Canada is going to be the Habs. Take that to the bank. So forget about these Oilers and these other bum teams.
A true Canadian team winning for Canada.
That's right. And so, but I was happy for Paul Maurice.
A lot of people are very happy for Paul
I was
Maurice.
so happy. 30 years in the league, plying his trade, looking for that combination to bring to the Stanley Cup and win it, and he finally did. There's not a nicer guy than Paul Maurice, although he loves to swear. I'll give him that.
I mean, Paul Maurice is a really interesting study. Much like Scotty Bowman in the beginning, he played hockey in the Ontario Hockey League, and he got an eye injury, and so it ended his career. And he's been, right around this league. He's played for, been coached for 4 or 5 different teams at least. But, I mean, just think about it. I mean, about 2 or 3 years ago, I believe he retired mid-season from the Winnipeg Jets. And then a year and a half later, he took on the Florida Panthers, which was only 2 years ago. Took that team to the finals that very first year. And now, his second year with the Florida Panthers, he wins the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, well, he was talking. I saw an interview with him, and he said that, listen, I was retired. I was done. I didn't want to coach anymore. I was finished. Florida called me, and they said, well, come on down and talk to us anyway. Just talk to us. So he went down there, and then he met the guys, and he looked around, and he said, I don't know. It just something told me I had to get involved with this, that this bunch was worth getting involved with. And he signed to be the coach, and the rest is, Stanley Cup.
Well, what I find fascinating as well is that he thought that this team really had love for each other. And he continues to speak to the fact that this team developed an identity and that he helped them to create an identity. He helped them to believe in that identity. and then he encouraged them to accept that and continually. That's what they were going to. That was going to be their mantra, their identity. They were going to stick to that plan, and that's what was going to get them through being up 3 games, being tied 3-3, and then winning the Stanley Cup final.
And, I always wish that Paul Maurice was coach of the Habs. I mean, I would love to see him. I mean, it never happened, of course, St. Louis we got. But, man, he's a good coach, and I don't think he's going anywhere now. He'll be back next year for sure.
Well, again, he can't wait to try and win again for next year.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt about that. But this team has a lot of love. I mean, so from what I see there is we've talked a lot about Montreal building a culture, and we see that culture continuously, even during the off season. I mean, there's been, 3 weddings?
Yep.
I think during the off season, and just about, team members are flying over to Italy. They're bonding together.
Ireland.
They're building that culture, that love for each other, which is exactly what Paul Maurice has been speaking about that is existing in this Florida dressing room. But as well, now it's time for the Canadiens to create a team identity. How is this team going to play on the ice? What are they going to be known for when you're playing against them? What will other teams say? Oh, the Montreal Canadiens, this is the type of team they are on the ice. So it's great to have your culture, and we've been doing an excellent job with that. Now it's time to define what this team is going to be, how they are going to play to win a Stanley Cup.
We need the identity.
Absolutely.
So, as much as I was really happy for Paul Maurice, I was very, very mad about the Conn Smythe trophy. And, it made me mad.
What trophy?
The Conn Smythe trophy, and it went to Connor Bedard.
Oh, really?
No, not Connor, but now you got me saying that. Connor Bedard. It went to McDavid.
Connor McDavid.
Yes. I'm going Connor Bedard. You got me thinking Connor Bedard. And McDavid.
It's amazing what I can do, eh?
You got a mental thing going. That's why you give all Drew Deeks the answers to everything.
Absolutely.
We do our trivia, and he's got the answers because you mentally give him that telepathy. Yeah, so anyway, you made me say Connor. I'm going to blame you anyway. But anyway, McDavid won it. And there's no friggin' way McDavid should win this. He played a great series, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? He's not a champion. Bobrovsky played a great series. He played a lot of great series, and he's a champion. He should have got it. That's what my contention. And I don't care what anybody else says. They gave it to the wrong guy. That was all a political move because he's the best player in hockey.
I believe now, I guess that's done by press. I do press.
Yeah. It's who's done that? It's the press writers or whatever it is.
The national press.
The national press.
Whatever called the National Hockey Press.
Yeah, something like that.
I believe only one person in that entire group did not vote McDavid. That's what I was told.
Yeah. Unanimous almost.
Now, you think the Florida goaltender should have been the Conn Smythe winner?
I do.
I don't know if there really was a Conn Smythe winner.
Oh, okay.
Okay? To me, nobody really stuck out. I mean, and I think that's part of the identity of Florida. A lot of people are starting to say, well, to win a Stanley Cup, you need 5, 6, 7 star players. So collectively, they're speaking about star players, and we know Tkachuk, Bennett,
Barkov.
Who scored the winning goal?
Verhaeghe.
No, the was it Emmett or somebody, or who scored the last goal for Florida?
I thought it was Verhaeghe, but
anyway, I mean, they're saying those were the star players for the Florida Panthers, but I didn't see anybody exceptional. McDavid put on a show for at least 2 games. I will grant you that.
Yes.
Okay. He put up a lot of points during the series.
Mm-hmm.
I'll grant you that.
He did.
But Connor McDavid, I think, agreed with you. Because he didn't come out to accept the cup.
Wah. Yeah, I didn't even come
No,
out.
no. Now you said he shouldn't have won it.
Then
He agrees.
He didn't come out to get it.
He didn't come out to get it. He believes what you said.
That is the truth. Well, I texted him.
Well, there you go.
I sent that text and I was on X.
There you go. I mean, as a true captain, he waited for his entire team to leave the ice. Probably by the time he got to the dressing room, somebody handed him his phone. Your text was there. Yeah. He said, okay, I'm not going out.
Yeah, I couldn't believe he didn't come out. Like, they're really panning that in the press.
Think about this. Connor McDavid brought his family to the game.
Yep.
He brought his, I think, his OHL coach to the game. I'm sure he brought a few people to that game. And I think he said a lot by not coming out for that trophy.
Yeah,
I actually applaud him because he didn't come there to win the Conn Smythe trophy.
No, of course not.
He came there to win the Stanley Cup, and kudos to him.
Take that, Conn Smythe, and shove it.
Kudos to him.
Yeah, well,
seriously.
I mean, yeah, but he should have came out.
Wait. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You said he shouldn't win the trophy.
Right.
Why would he come out then to accept it?
Well, because it's
tradition.
Come
on, man.
It's tradition.
Come on.
Like, my opinion doesn't mean that he shouldn't come out. It means that he should come out and get it, but I don't think he should have won it. Bobrovsky would have came out and got it.
Oh, I'm sure he would have. At 35 years of age, playing goal, he'd come out and get any trophy they're going to give him at this point.
I think so, but what a series he played too. So, I mean, there's guys who say he scored 42 points in the series and broke Gretzky's this and blah, blah, blah. And okay, I agree with it. I mean, I don't think that he shouldn't have even been in the running for it. I just think the people who win it, they're the champions. They should get the awards.
He was definitely in the lineage of great players. I mean, he was putting up records like the Gretzky Lemieux records we spoke about in previous episodes.
Now imagine if he would have won and they gave the trophy to Bobrovsky.
I don't think he would have cared.
No?
I don't think Connor would have cared.
Well, maybe
not.
No,
I don't think so. I think to win a Stanley Cup is everything.
Well, there you go.
And I mean, that's what people were, I think he's every Canadian broadcaster was speaking about that because they're all about, the Cinderella story, Cup coming back to Canada after 30 years, Connor setting, records following the footsteps of the great one, yeah, blah, 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 blah. So, what I loved was Paul Maurice going up, getting the cup, and then going, Richard, Beliveau, Howe, Gatsby, and now Maurice will be on the cup. Dad, our name is on the cup with those four other guys that you loved your entire life watching hockey. To me, that was fabulous to me. I mean, that said so much about Paul Maurice and what he's been trying to accomplish for 30 years and asking everybody in his family and his whole group of friends surrounding him to accept what he was trying to do for those last 30 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
So, I mean, in that essence, that's the value of the Stanley Cup. And nobody ever speaks to the names that are on the Conn Smythe trophy. No disrespect to Conn Smythe.
Now, if everybody remembers this, last year, they touched the trophy for winning the East. They're all over it, carried it around. This year, they didn't even go near it.
Absolutely.
They didn't even want to get knocked into it and touch it. And they win the cup. So that is a real thing.
It could be. It could be. Let's put it this way. If the Montreal Canadiens, when they win the East Division, I don't think anybody on that team is going to touch that cup.
No, I don't think so.
Let's put it that way.
I don't think so. I think everybody's staying away after they touched it one year, they didn't win, then they come back and don't touch it and they win. That's that curse, and it's on. It's real.
Now, in 1966, 65 or 66, there was a goaltender for the Detroit Red Wings
65, Roger Crozier.
that won the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Roger Crozier?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But who won the Stanley Cup?
Hold it. Would Drew Deeks have known that?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Just gotta get that straight.
No. That's why we're having this conversation.
Okay.
That's why we're having this conversation. Me and you.
Yeah.
So who won the Stanley Cup that year, though?
In 1966, that you're talking 65, 66?
Yeah,
that would have been the Habs.
Exactly. And so Drew might have known that. Might have.
Maybe.
And so there you go. A team wins the Stanley Cup. Roger Crozier on the losing team gets the Conn Smythe Trophy.
Yeah, there you go.
Do you think Roger Crozier really cared about?
No, I'll bet you Roger Crozier came out and got it though.
I'll bet you he did.
Yeah.
And I'll bet you Detroit didn't win a cup for about 15, 20 years.
Yeah, after that season. Geez, I don't think Detroit won back until they hit the 90s.
Exactly. So now, let's see what happens next year.
Well, Florida's not going to win it. I'm telling everybody right now, I'm making the prediction. Florida will not win the Stanley Cup again next year.
But will Edmonton?
Well, I don't. Boy, oh boy, I don't know about that. Man, I would never bet on them. Like I said, the East was going to win it this year. I had the feeling, and I had the feeling Florida Rangers was the Stanley Cup Series.
So it's going to be interesting if Edmonton.
That's a good question, John.
How Edmonton puts this team together.
Yeah.
Where they go from here with a couple of major players going to become free agents. Those are challenges the Habs may have maybe 5-6 years from now at the same point as they're making their run for the Cup. So it'll be interesting if we can learn something from what goes down in Edmonton over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting next year with Edmonton because that's a long, like this is the longest Stanley Cup run ever till June 24th, and it's just like a grinding season, or 23rd or whatever it was on Monday, and it's just a grinding season. Now Florida's gone through 2 of them, and sometimes you just looked at those 3 games they lost and you said, geez, they do look tired. And Rangers, they wore Rangers down. I mean, Rangers look beaten Game 6. And you got to wonder if Edmonton, by the time the end of next season comes around, if they're going to be maybe a little bit gassed from this whole scenario.
So think about this. I mean, Florida did it 2 seasons in a row.
Amazing.
Like I say, they brought in 10 different players. So they shored up the team in a different way to be able to make that run. We know we're starting to learn that Edmonton were not the healthiest team.
Yeah, that's coming out now. McDavid had broken ribs or something.
Draisaitl had a broken rib and a broken finger. McDavid has abdomen problems, which he may have to have an operation for.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I think to consider as well. I've never liked playing sports with people who are injured. What if Draisaitl had not played the 3 games that Edmonton lost? The first 3 games. What if he had been recouping for those 3 games, which would have been a matter of 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 7 to 8 days, at least a week? Would he have been able to perform much better in the last 4? Would they have won the Cup because of that?
You never know. Right?
You don't know.
You don't know. But it's a good point. And they lost the first 3 anyway. I mean, they didn't expect to, but
So again, you know how Montreal over the last couple of years has suffered so many man injury lost games. How important it is for people to be physically fit, conditioned, whatever, healthy, and players who are not so prone to injury. You're looking for, so when you're drafting players, when you're bringing on prospects, etc., you're looking for players who can play, the majority of that 82 game series,
like Kirby Dach,
like a Kirby Dach, or I think is it Matheson?
Yeah, Mike Matheson.
Who's the gentleman that went to Winnipeg?
That was Monahan.
Like a Monahan. Monahan actually played 83 games last year.
Yeah. Yeah, too bad Newhook was out and Doc was out, but we're going to have them back and healthy this year.
And Monahan is, again, that unrestricted free agent.
Yes, you might see him back in Montreal. You never know.
I'd love to see that happen.
You never know.
And we've had some good feedback, actually, on the podcast. Some of the comments have a lot of some of the listeners, the viewers have agreed that Monahan would be a good pick.
Yeah, there you go. Let's go to a little trivia here.
Roger Crozier.
We got trivia. Yeah, that was a good one. I got it. I mean, like back in the 60s, there were 6 teams and only so many good goaltenders, so I could probably...
Well, there were only 12 goaltenders.
Yeah, we could go through the whole league and tell you every goaltender that played.
Exactly. Probably their numbers even.
I know. I wonder if we could do that.
Like 1 in 30.
I wonder if we could do that. I don't know.
Remember, goalies would be either number 1 or number 30. That was it.
That's it.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. The Canadiens have traditionally put a premium on a certain position, and they drafted more of this position than any other when they've held a top 10 draft pick. What position is that? And I'll give you with the multiple guesses.
Okay.
Left wing, center, goalie, or defense?
Well,
that's a good question.
That's a good question.
We've had a lot of all of them. A lot of greats, right? So
I'll have to say goalie.
I wish I had my button out. No, it's left wing. Believe it or not, it's left wing. And, we always remember these great goaltenders Montreal's had and drafted and the good centers, but it was left wing. And this group includes such stars as Mats Naslund, Steve Shutt,
Shutty,
Bob Gainey.
Yeah, it's amazing that you don't even think of him as a left winger in some respect.
I always think of him as a defenseman because he was so good on his defensive game.
His D game was amazing.
Yeah, and Max Pacioretty.
Patch.
Yeah. He's patio ready because when playoffs came, he hit the patio right away, and we were out of the playoffs. And of course, Slavkovsky.
There you go. And I don't even think of Slav as a left winger, but because people play so many, they're all over the ice now.
Yeah. And it's funny, you go back and there's a ton of them that Montreal drafted left wingers who really never made a huge impact on the team, but they were drafted as left wingers, and they have drafted more left wingers in the top 10 when they had a top 10 pick than any other position. So there you go.
There you go.
Who knew? I would have probably said, said goalie or defense because.
Well, with CP and whatever.
Well, exactly, and Patty Waugh and.
Theodore. Where did Theodore come from? That was a trade, or was that a?
I think they drafted him.
Did they draft Theodore? Yeah.
Yeah, Theodore, and we've had so many over the years. Good goalies. Not just. We think of Carey Price. Oh no, I don't think of Gary Price when
we all think of Carey Price.
You think of Carey Price,
of course,
and I think like guys like Patty Waugh and everything else, and they're just we've always had a goaltender there that's been decent.
Winnipeg has a decent goaltender who's a free agent.
Who, Hellebuck? Is that the goaltender there? Is it Hellebuck, or is that the other guy?
I think it's the backup.
The kook.
I think his name is Laurent Brossois.
Brossois.
And he's 31.
Oh, yeah?
And he's got the best numbers in the NHL for a backup goaltender.
Oh, wow. I never knew that.
And he's an unrestricted free agent.
And is you never know. You know what? This is what the beauty of this draft is. Expect the unexpected.
Well, the beauty is you do the draft, and then on July 1st, free agency, off we go.
Yeah, exactly.
And to be able to pick up a goal, and you've got $3 to $4 million more cap dollars.
Well, didn't we have that situation last year, and we had a heck of a time with it?
But what I'm saying is if I pick up a goalie, then I'm trading a goalie.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so
Which one?
So let's say I have an opportunity to move up in a draft pick here. I could easily trade a goalie if I knew I could sign an unrestricted free agent goalie. or you go in and trade the goalie later, you know.
Yep, get rid of him.
But exactly. But I mean, this guy is the right age. He's 30, 31. He's got amazing numbers. He just doesn't see the ice as much as he needs to. That's the kind of goaltender that we need 5 years from now. Like, who's the guy who would have won the Conn Smythe Trophy if you were handing it out?
If I was handing it out, it would have been Bobrovsky.
And he's 35, and he's...
Is he that old?
Yeah, he's that old.
I don't think so. Really?
Yeah.
Check it out. Is he that old? Bobrovsky?
He is that old.
Okay. But, you know, you're talking about that, right? And we just saw a big trade yesterday. Allmark going to the Ottawa Senators for Korpisalo and a couple other players, right? So
Because you've got to have a goalie.
yeah, so I mean, Ottawa made a big move. Korpisalo wasn't quite what they thought, you know, and Allmark. Well, we'll see how Allmark does. Remember, he was on the very, very bad Buffalo Sabres, and they ditched him. So I've got to think that, you know, he's had a couple of career years. Is he going to do the same on a team that doesn't protect him like the Boston, the Bruins did? We'll see. We'll see at the end of the day. But yeah, I didn't think he was that old. Bobrovsky.
35, and he will be 36 September 20th.
Wow, Florida better be looking for another goalie too. He's just about come to the end of the road.
So, but we know experience in a goaltender is very important like that they can actually peak like later if they're a good goalie to start with. And I believe this guy in Winnipeg could be, somebody's going to be looking at him for sure. I mean, he's going to go. He's not going to be in Winnipeg next year. It'll be interesting to see where he goes.
Well, that kind of fits in with your 4 to 5 year plan here, where in 3 to 4 years, some of the people that we see today are probably not going to be there. And also, we need somebody to play goal for the next 3 to 4 years that's very good, so that we can wait for Jacob Fowler and some of these other guys we got sitting in the wings, right, to make their way to the NHL.
Exactly.
And they take a little longer.
And whether Jacob Fowler will be able to, be that contender, I mean, let's hope so. But at the same point, you can't bet the whole pot of money on one guy. So if there's a goalie out there who has those great numbers, who is like just bubbling under the 32 goaltenders who are starting goaltenders in the NHL, then he's definitely worth a consideration.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I say, when I see Bobrovsky playing as well as he has at the age of 35, this guy could easily fit that into that plan.
Yeah, when it's all said and done, it makes sense.
It's a possibility.
Makes sense to me, yeah. So just talking about that Allmark trade, what do you think of it, John?
Well, I believe Boston did really well by picking up the 24th, I think, overall pick for this year's draft.
Yep.
I believe, like
Really?
you have said, that this goaltender that they traded was not going to be the guy for Ottawa for Boston.
No.
And they picked up a backup goaltender as well as a forward in the trade. So
Yep.
I think it's a win for Boston.
Yeah, and we'll see what Allmark does in Ottawa. I mean, it's
Well,
definitely
here's an opportunity for him.
exactly.
Okay, because he won't. I think Boston played. I think they did the rotation pretty evenly during the season.
Yeah, it was 50-50 almost.
So here's his opportunity.
Yeah, to take over, be first, and lead Ottawa to,
Whatever.
I don't know. I think they made the playoffs.
Down the
I mean,
canal,
so
I don't know.
We'll see what happens with that. But interesting trade. Usually teams don't like to trade some of their best players within their own division. Like, they like to trade out of their division. But
Yes.
they got, I guess, such a good deal that they couldn't resist it. Especially, I don't think they have a number one first round draft pick. They don't have a first round draft pick this year. Now they do, number 24. And you were telling me
Right.
that you think it could affect Montreal at 26.
Well, they're going to be drafting ahead of Montreal, so maybe they will know who they think Montreal wants and pick that person.
You never know.
You don't know.
You don't know what they're looking for, right? They probably now are pretty happy they got that pick. It was 24 or 25. Was
Yeah.
it 24?
I think it was 24.
But either way, I mean, yeah, they are
It
picking.
was one ahead of Montreal's pick.
Yeah, Montreal's 26, I think.
So
So they'd be 25. But still, it's a first-round draft pick they never had, and now they got a shot at who knows who, right?
Exactly.
You know, in Montreal, now they're thinking,
You got to have a ticket to win the lottery.
you got to have a ticket to win the lottery. That's right. So that was an interesting trade. Now, last week, I mentioned this Eitan Silyev as a possible fifth pick for the
He's a
fifth
defenseman,
overall
correct?
pick, Drew Deeks. Fifth overall pick, Drew Deeks. You're not here, and we got it right.
Right. He's a defenseman, though, right?
Who, Drew Deeks?
No.
Yes. Yeah, he's a 6'7", 18-year-old D-man.
He's big.
And he had another meeting with the Habs.
He's a big guy.
So, if the Habs cannot or choose not to move up, because of the picks they want, Demidov or Lindstrom, if they're gone, there's a lot of other choices.
Montreal's doing due diligence here.
Yeah, Iginla, Seneca, Catan, Yzerman, they're all possibilities.
Montreal's doing due diligence. There's been a lot of talk about making sure that you're not drafting a bloodline recently. Just because your father played hockey doesn't mean you're going to be great.
True.
In some cases, it's true. In some cases, it's not.
Yeah, the Tkachuk's proved that to be true.
I thought Brett Hull was
he was a pretty
not a bad hockey player.
Good. Yeah,
not a bad little hockey player.
But
now Gordie Howe's sons. I mean, one played well in Philadelphia.
I think Marty,
but no Gordie.
No good. Yeah, no. They were. Wait till Gretzky's kid comes up. How is he possibly gonna? I mean, he's got. Yeah, it's amazing. But anyway, John, is picking a top defenseman totally out of the question this year?
Nothing is out of the question. I mean, and again, what goes on behind closed doors, as Charlie Rich used to sing.
Yeah.
What if somebody wants that defenseman and says, you grab that defenseman and we'll talk some turkey?
Well, let me put this to you. For your investigating and analyzing mind. We know we're overloaded on D. So everybody says we're not going to pick a D because we're overloaded. But it becomes clear as to why when you decipher Hughes' long-term strategy, if Mike Matheson is 30 years old...
he won't be playing in the Cup final.
And he won't be playing on that Stanley Cup team, just like you just said, several years from now. He's the most valuable asset to move right now, right? So Hughes is looking down the line, not at today, like you say. You keep saying that. And if you move Matheson plus a pick and other assets for one player we need now, a bona fide scoring ace, if we're going to do that with our 26th pick, perhaps bringing in Silyev makes sense.
Or you go after a couple of UFAs who can put the puck in the net.
Yeah.
Okay. And you bring in this Silyev, and he becomes a core defenseman. And sorry to say, but somebody in the prospect list isn't going to be on the team.
I think a lot of the people in the prospect list aren't going to be on the team come 3 or 4 years. What do you think about that?
Exactly. I mean, you know, there's only so many positions you can fill. And that being said, what I find interesting is that Florida, like I say, changed their team by at least 10 players from last year to this year.
Exactly.
And won the Cup. So that says an awful lot for the management of that Florida Panther team. And who's the guy who is the agent that runs that team? You know, the water bottle guy? The guy who threw the water bottle the other day?
Oh, I know who you mean.
You know exactly
Yeah.
who I mean. He came from being a player agent. I think there's 3 GMs in the NHL that were ex-player agents.
Hughes?
Hughes is one of them.
This guy?
This guy is another. And this guy just won the Stanley Cup.
And he threw a water bottle, which everybody was making a big deal about.
He threw a water bottle.
Threw a water bottle.
But the bottom line is...
I've thrown a couple.
The bottom line is he won the Stanley Cup final.
That's right.
He put the team together.
That's right.
And we have someone much like that.
That's right.
Who's in that position putting our team together.
And so when you think about that, and the Ducks and Blue Jackets appear to be teams that have what Hughes might want, look out for these trades and look out for everything that goes on with this thing. And so for anybody who thinks, no, Montreal won't pick a defenseman, they want a forward, expect the unexpected from Hughes.
Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. And there's Sam Dickinson out there. There's a couple of really good defensemen. So, I don't discount that, Hughes might pick a defenseman. I don't know.
Bill Zito.
Bill Zito.
And Hughes, again, as you said, we're picking fifth. So what happens first, second, third, fourth determines what we do fifth.
That's right.
Depending on whether or not Hughes is making any other types of moves prior to his draft selection.
Yeah, and I think that if Demidov and Lindstrom are gone, then I think anything could happen. Anything
can happen.
Anything can
happen.
And I
mean, think about having a 6'7" defenseman.
Oh, I mean, he's like
there was. Oh, that's the guy.
That's the guy.
And didn't they win a couple of cups with Chara?
Well, they won one.
They won one.
That's for sure. And he was a big part of it.
And Boston dominated a lot of the league back then with Chara.
Yeah, a big goon like that is always good to have, right?
It's good to have a very and there's strength there. 6'7", there's strength.
Yeah,
and Chara played a lot of minutes for the Boston Bruins.
Yeah, and they're calling him very, very good in the neutral zone. Excellent and good in the defensive zone. Not a prolific scorer or anything like that, but more of a guy that's gonna do what Florida did to Edmonton a couple nights ago.
You need defensemen who play defense, without a doubt. Edmonton had their opportunities the other night.
They did. But the Conn Smythe winner, Bobrovsky, he shut him down.
Who's the guy for Edmonton who was injured? Not McDavid, the other guy.
Not Nugent Hopkins.
No.
And there was Draisaitl.
So Draisaitl had a rib and finger injury. Draisaitl had two excellent opportunities to put the puck in the net that night. He found on the first opportunity from the right-hand side on the PP, and then he had another shot in the same area, and he shot wide, and there was you could see an opening there.
Yep. Now let me ask you another question here. Let me get your opinion on this. I love getting your opinion on stuff. You know that, right? You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
No, okay. Well, now you know. So, Mishkov is definitely going to come to the NHL this year. Did Habs make a mistake?
No. I mean, Mishkov still has to play hockey in North America. I mean, it's great that Mishkov is coming, but I don't see that as a mistake.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are just saying, we could have had him and they didn't take him because he wasn't going to be here right away and they couldn't wait 3 years in the KHL and all these contracts. But he's coming over, so I tell you the truth, I'm quite happy with our pick.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm very, very happy with our pick. I think we got a superstar with a ceiling that hasn't even been a quarter of the way there yet. This kid's going to be a superstar, so I'm happy with our pick, and I don't have any regrets of not picking Mishkov. And Slavkovsky has already proved himself. What has Mishkov proven to us?
Yeah, I mean, Slavkovsky has got a huge ceiling as well. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, okay, so let's move on to another player that may get chosen in this draft that everybody's kind of talking about. And that guy is Atas Saku Koivu's son.
Wow.
Yeah, now he's
another like bloodline player.
Yeah, and he's draft ready. He's not quite in the first round yet, but he's making progress. He was with the TP's under 18 team and has been productive, 17 points in 16 games. And he was in the under 20 team. He managed 15 goals and 29 points in 23 games.
Good numbers.
Good numbers. So he's a bigger version of his dad. He's 6'1".
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, and he's known as a playmaker with a hard wrist shot. The scouts think his ceiling is high, and he is expected to go early in the third round. Do you think the Habs would be interested in this guy?
You're interested in everybody, but it's like where does he fall on the Habs chart of draft selections? And when we pick at that time, is he available?
Yeah, because he's going to be around in the 70s probably, in the draft pick.
And where do we draft at that point?
Yeah, and do we have a draft pick in the third round? I don't know. We probably do, but we'll see. I think that's an interesting thing, though, if we sit there the day after the draft, because they're going to go to 32 places, of course.
I mean, obviously, the most important picks are the first two.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's a matter of probably trying to find a needle in the haystack at a certain position, which I believe would be forward this year.
Yeah, I'm interested in this.
I would
Koivu
I
thing.
would definitely be looking at drafting potential forwards.
Well, I think you're going to see that
with most of those draft picks.
I think last year we drafted like 5 goalies,
5 or 6
later picks.
goaltenders in the last 5 to 10 picks.
Yeah, hoping that we find one that actually makes the grade. But it's really neat to see guys like Saku Koivu, who was basically a legendary in Montreal. I mean, he had cancer, he came back, and everything about Saku Koivu is Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, we see that more and more in all sports, whether it be, even in Formula One, race car drivers, we see it
NASCAR.
a lot in hockey, exactly.
Well, what's funny, John, is that we see that because we lived long enough
to see it,
to watch Saku Koivu and then have his son come up 20 years later. But a guy like Drew Deeks, I don't even know if Saku was playing when Drew Deeks was born. Was he?
I think
87. He would have been playing. Yes, Saku would have been playing.
I think so.
Yeah. So, but these younger guys, like we got to remember, we're 25 years into the 2000s.
Which is hard to believe.
It's hard to believe, right? Because these guys played, and they were like, to me, yesterday, Saku.
Well, I mean, I could still see Ken Dryden, kicking out his foot and stopping Jim Pappen. And Pappen just going, I can't believe this guy just stopped the puck.
Yeah.
And stealing that game that way.
It's like yesterday.
Absolutely. I mean, even Roger Crozier. I can see Henri Richard sliding into the net in overtime, dragging the puck along with his arm into the net. And Toe Blake yelling at all the players, get over the boards, we just won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. And it seems like yesterday, but it was 50, 60 years ago now we're talking, right? So
yes.
Some of this stuff. So, it's really funny when you see their kids come up, and a lot of the younger fans, Habs fans, probably have no idea who Saku Koivu was, maybe. They might not even know if you were born after, in the year 2000.
I mean, one of the beauties, too, of the Montreal Canadiens is that they're such a sacred team. And, they're one of the very few teams that hasn't really toyed with their uniform. Now, we have all the NHL teams this year are going to get a slightly different uniform because I think it's
FanDuel?
No, it's a certain company that makes sporting stuff out of Quebec. That are actually going to make all the official uniforms for all the NHL teams.
Oh, so it's not Adidas or Puma or anybody.
Yeah, Adidas is gone. How for the last 5 or 6 years the Adidas sweater has had those kind of perforations on the shoulders.
Yeah.
That is gone. I'm so glad to see that. To be honest with you, that we're going to look more like a solid uniform, which is what I expect to see. I thought they look chintzy. To be honest with you. So
did you like the ropes that tied here? Did you like the old style with the strings?
I wish they actually worked.
Yeah, because in the old days they did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was there was purpose, and so that I'd love to see back. But Fanatics are the group.
Fanatics.
Right. They've taken over, and they're a company that is based in Quebec. So
interesting.
They're doing the uniforms.
There's some trivia.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fanatic. Fanatic.
And so we've always had that heritage. We had the heritage of so many French Canadians back then, playing for Le Bleu Blanc et Rouge. And so you got that family lineage as well going on in Montreal. I mean, back then, Bernie Geoffrion married Howie Morenza's daughter.
Yeah.
You know, that type of stuff was going on. So
Unbelievable.
there's a huge hockey kind of royalty that exists in La Belle Provence. I mean,
Habs
and
land.
we lost a coach last week who we thought we had acquired.
You guys were just talking about him last week, this
Exactly.
Ool. And then all of a sudden,
Rajon Ool's son.
he went to NCAA.
He went back to where we had brought him from.
Okay, Paul Maurice, number one.
So, Paul Maurice, great pick. Like I said, he honored the ex-habitants on his speech. It says so much to the heritage of the Canadiens with the Stanley Cup. I just wish that, when they onboard the actual games, that there's more. We see more Montreal Canadian players in respect to winning the Stanley Cup.
Yes.
So
Paul Maurice.
for Paul Maurice putting that together, kudos to him.
And Shea Weber, you agree with?
Shea Weber, of course, because I'm expecting to see Shea Weber at the Dome, giving out the number 5 pick of the Montreal Canadiens, announcing who it is.
I think that would be pretty neat.
And it'll be very interesting to see who that is. And
your number one,
my number 1, I have to disagree with you.
not Bobrovsky?
No, I'd have to select Connor McDavid for not accepting the Conn Smythe. I think he shows leadership. I'm sure a lot of people in the NHL are displeased. I'm sure Gary Bettman was not happy about that. But you know what? If Connor McDavid is playing with the Edmonton Oilers next year, which I believe he will, and he brings that team back to the finals, they will win a Stanley Cup.
Nope, that's an interesting take on it that I certainly never thought of, and probably not a lot of people didn't think about it. They were willing to just say, he's a poor sport and a big crybaby because he didn't come out and get that Conn Smythe, but you got another take on it.
Yeah, I think he's saying something to 28 guys that he went to battle with.
Yep.
And that's, and it's funny, but recently I've been reading about insurrections in the United States of America. And there was one back in 1861 when Abraham Lincoln was elected president of the Union, and the southern states were not pleased with that decision. And they started basically an insurrection and a secession from the Union itself. And there was a place in South Carolina in Charleston where there was a federal fort, and there were 30 guys who were stuck in that federal fort, basically, waiting to find out what was going to happen with them as they decided to protect their union. And that's what you're doing as a hockey team. You've got to insulate yourselves. There's so many people who want to be on that bandwagon, from all of the fans that love the team and everybody else. But it's the 30 players in that dressing room who take it on and have to bring it home. And I think Paul Maurice spoke a lot about the fact that there were a lot of times that he wasn't in the meetings with those players, that his position basically was kind of directing them. Once he got them on the rails, it was up to them to they were running the show. What he was trying to do was just remind them what they had decided so that they didn't stray away from their ideology and their identity.
And that's a fantastic way to do it. And on that note, we're going to end the show. Thank you for tuning in. Give us a like. And we're going to get Drew Deeks to splice this together.
and we're looking forward to seeing you live Friday night.
That's right.
I think we're going to start broadcasting about 6:45, from my understanding.
Yeah, something like that. And on the Drew Deeks channel, we're going to be on Drew Deeks Show, and we're going to be discussing the draft, and we're going to be giving the results live, and we're also going to be giving our take on exactly what the Montreal Canadiens did. See you then. Don't forget to give us a like. My name is Paul K. Lemire.
Jean-Louis Filion.
Coming to you
Salut.
live from downtown Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. Habsolutely in the studios of 4680Q Radio. Have a great day, everybody. See you on Friday night. I can't wait. It's going to be a slobber knocker.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.